Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in the Mendham area, sort of. In the Mendham area? I don't know. It's not. That doesn't sound right because I am not in Mendham. But anyway, I'll pretend to be. That's what I'll do. I'll pretend. It's only make believe and all that bullshit. Except it really shouldn't be. The human race should actually be able to have a conversation about what is the actual reality, what we are. And the simplest argument is we're bugs, pretty much. Fish, alright, that have a few extra features. We got the seawater on the inside instead of the outside. We found a different way to breathe, and we have some tricks. And then we have this little bit of brain stuff, this little extra brain, and it is just a little, and it really just has to do with language and vocabulary and symbols and all that kind of stuff. And so we can have conversations about what we feel and what we think. What rolls around, what pops into our awareness. But it's just bug bullshit. It's just about what do I feel. And most of what I feel is going to be something to do with physiology and a bunch of very old and crude programs that tell me I want to swim upstream and fuck the bitches, or whatever the thing is. And, keep up with the Joneses, look better, smell better, blah, 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 blah. Compete and win. And that's it. That's just bug behavior. But clearly we can have this intelligent conversation. We say, okay, I know I'm a bug, but I can do a little better than just an average bug. I can be a better bug. So I can have a sophisticated conversation about truth and reality. But unfortunately, that sophisticated conversation is going to have to acknowledge the crude origins, and there's no God, and there's no special anything. There's just a mechanical system. The mechanical system fell upon a reproducing molecule that's basically just doing the Xeroxing thing. And the whole plan is to Xerox it badly, so you make a copy that's better than the original in some kind of weird way, and that one will tend to get preserved because the betterness will turn the chicks on, and or turn the make the dicks anyway. The betterness will have an effect, and the effect will have a and the result will be that the new thing to be Xeroxed won't be the same as the old thing that was Xeroxed, and you will wipe out, crumple up, and throw in the trash a whole bunch of copies that just weren't the better copy. And all of this for no planned purpose, just something the mechanism does, just something the universe does when it gets complicated, when you compress a bunch of stuff and it gets clumpy and lumpy. We're just clumpy and lumpy, and we have these little extra features so we can sing and dance, and but nothing spectacular. It's just bug life. And any argument that's anything other than that is, in a sense, just juvenile baby wishful thinking. The facts are hideously unpleasant. Unflattering. They will not give you a warm and fuzzy feeling. They will, in fact, make you sick and depressed. If you think about it too much, because it just trivializes everything you feel like is important. You can think it right into the toilet. I mean, right into a cesspool. If you use your logic to see it for what it is instead of what you wish it was. And that's our dilemma. So, anyway. So in the comments, somebody referenced this guy. Blithering Genius, interesting name, why not, has a little symbol for an icon that I don't trust too much, but whatever. He did a video on ephilism, and seems a reasonable sort in some respects. Haven't really heard the whole video, just kind of jumped through it, and I figured I could just play some of it, and it will provoke some kind of thing called conversation. I did hear one part where he said something just absolutely silly in terms of defending that somehow we evolved to eat meat, which is just so funny. I mean, it can't make any sense. Nothing, no animal tastes good to us in its raw form. Even bugs. If you don't cook them, they're gross. If you don't cover them with chocolate, they taste like shit. You know, it's just silly. So these people think that somehow we evolved to like chase squirrels, chew their fur off, to munch on their raw flesh without making the mistake of squishing their guts and poisoning the meat. I mean, unlike most of the other predators, we're vulnerable to a huge number of parasites that make us sick. Predators have to be kind of immune to those things because obviously they're eating digestive substances, and it's, you know, not good for you. So I mean, you can deduce that we are not made to eat raw meat from the fact that it makes us sick often. Like, often. It's contaminated and it makes us sick. We certainly can't eat it when it's just a little bit foul. Even a little bit foul, it makes us sick. It makes us sick even when it's pure. I mean, again, beef tartare, eating raw beef, was introduced in America as a dietary remedy for people who were morbidly obese, because you eat it and it goes right through you. I mean, so there's just no evidence that we can eat raw meat. So unless you think evolution didn't happen the way it happened, which is just a few 100,000 years ago is when we had even unsustainable fire. That is, some control over fire, but not permanent fires. And you'd have to probably go back just 20 or 30,000 years ago to find humans who actually were able to maintain a fire and cook meat. So that's hardly evolution. And it's hardly evolution in the sense there's no indication that we've biologically in any way evolved to eat meat. The people who are the healthiest people on this planet right now are people who are fruitarians, raw food eaters, and they're not eating raw meat. Okay, nobody does that. It doesn't taste good, and it won't do your guts any good at all, because you can't digest it. So, I mean, this guy just loses all credibility from me when he sits there and makes such an arrogant statement like, I have to be a fool on the subject of biological evolution if I don't understand how humans are evolved to eat meat when we don't have the teeth for it, we don't have the guts for it. I mean, it's just a silly argument. I mean, fucking silly to argue that we evolved to eat meat. It's just fucking idiotic. So, I mean, the only other great apes that eat meat are the ones that are psychotic. It's a tiny percentage of the troop that will be a homicidal cannibal, you know, in some form or another. You know, eat the dead babies or something. It's not the norm. I mean, it's just so stupid. I mean, to look at an orangutan and say, oh, orangutans are really meat eaters. No, they're not. I mean, it's just, or they're this close to being one. No, they're not. And either are we. It's just such a dishonest and stupid argument. I mean, get over it. If you want to eat meat, just own it and say, I don't care, okay, if I'm torturing and enslaving other feeling creatures for my stupid neuroses, okay, because I have a habit of eating meat. You don't have any necessity to eat it. It's just garbage. And you know, even the vitamin deficiency bullshit that they pull with the B12, when we know we evolved to eat dirt, So the thing that we were getting in our diet for most of the existence of human beings, our food was dirty, and there's a ton of B12 in dirt. Yeah, I mean, this is just such a, I mean, again, it's just such a desperately stupid argument for somebody intelligent to make. It's just desperately stupid. I have to justify what I'm doing, and so I'll concoct something that's just so nonsensical. Again, our teeth are so lame. They, you know, all carnivores have slicing teeth. They don't have mashing teeth. It doesn't work on fucking hard proteins. It's just so stupid.
I was up late and I couldn't sleep, so I decided to go out for a walk. And actually,
Alright, so I have the video sped up. I like the idea that it's a walk and talk. I mean, too bad he doesn't, you know, film the walk and talk as it is, and he just puts up this image, but whatever, fine.
I was listening to an inmendham video, because that's one of my guilty pleasures. that's one of my little vices.
Yes, mine also, frankly, because I'm the only person that makes sense on this planet, frankly. Everybody else is imperfect at best. Yeah, at best.
I do actually enjoy inmendham videos, but also I've listened to so many of them, and inmendham goes over and over the same subjects, you know.
But I do it in some new and, construct some new story. So it's not like I'm always telling the same exact story. I do put new lamps in, and I put a new window in of a different shape. I mean, I do change the scenery a little.
The same subject, really. So you don't have to listen to what he says, really. You kind of know what he's saying. I just find it kind of good background noise.
Likewise. I mean, I do have a pleasant enough presentation style, I guess you could call it, or something, a voice. But yeah, that's so subjective, right? I mean, obviously, it's not something that appeals to a huge number of humans as much as it appeals to me.
Kind of helps put me to sleep. But I have listened to what he has said, and I certainly have taken his perspective seriously, and I find it to be an interesting perspective, because,
It's all just about what the evidence points to. So again, it's, you know, I can say, oh, it's Inmendham's perspective. Well, Inmendham's perspective is just an argument about what the evidence appears to be. And the evidence doesn't point to a God, and it doesn't point to any kind of mystical purpose to our existence, and it certainly doesn't point to the idea that somehow we're accomplishing something by redundantly living out the same soap opera over and over and over again. I mean, it's the same play, just redundantly performed because you can kill the audience. So if you keep killing the audience, then everybody knows it's not same old, and they all seem like, oh, I'm surprised. But it's just the same shit all over again. The same frickin' human drama, poured out like blood.
well, because in a way it's the opposite of mine, where it's diametrically opposed on certain axes. But on the other hand...
Yes, because you're what, a denialist. A nihilist. Yes, something like that, no doubt. Some kind of me firster.
And we are in agreement on certain things. In particular, we are in pretty close agreement about biological realism, and I would say...
Yes, except for the obvious defect, as I pointed out, which you will probably state.
Well, again, fairly close agreement on psychological realism. Or at least, let me put it this way. We have similar...
Well, I mean, there's no point in messing with psychology. We know psychology is crap. Those are just impulses. Those are just garbage, noise from your physiological system. And we're smart enough to know what each one of them is there for. We know why we panic, or why we worry, or why we fret, and why we do this and why we do that, and why we wet our pants, or why we shit our pants. All of those things are known things that happen to lots of animals, and they do it for a reason. Usually to say, if you're going to eat me, I'm going to shit in your mouth first. Some kind of stupid thing like that. I mean, animals actually defecate for that purpose, to basically say, you know, you want to kill me? Well, eat this first.
Views on biology and psychology, although I'd say my psychology is better. My psychological views are better. Well, my biological views.
Yeah, whatever. So you might play with this word, right? It doesn't really matter. I mean, some people are nervous, some people aren't nervous, some people have little emotional tics, some people cry, some people don't cry, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Really doesn't matter. Oh, so you're more comfortable than me. Big deal. Who cares? What does it have to do with the argument? Oh, that's right, nothing. So let's ignore that shit.
Are better too, but I mean, there's not, other than the kind of silly notion inmendham has that we didn't evolve to eat meat.
Yeah, which is just so obvious that we didn't evolve to eat meat. We have no speed. We can't catch anything. I mean, frankly, what can we catch except eat earthworms? Do you want to sit down and have a yummy bowl of earthworms? What do you think we would eat if we were a natural organ? If you threw me into nature and said, here, what are you evolved to eat? You really think I would go out and it would occur to me that I should go out and chase squirrels down and strangle them without getting bitten or scratched, and chew their fur off to get to their yummy, raw, crappy flesh? Get real. Most people don't even like raw fish, right? And the Japanese, to make raw fish even edible, they have to put a bunch of acids and different, you know, lemon, all kinds of crap on it to make it edible. So what are you pretending that somehow we have some innate yumminess to, you know, chowing down on a zebra? Not a chance, idiot.
But he doesn't get very much wrong about biology. And I think he gets a few.
So says you. So again, so somebody called Blithering as your first name. I mean, I'd say the genius part was a little exaggerated.
Things wrong about psychology, but he has a much better understanding of human nature than, you know, the typical leftist or most people.
I mean, you know, this stupid language of the leftist. Oh, you mean somebody who recognizes that we do in fact live on a planet of 7 billion other human creatures, and then we do live on a planet of trillions, I guess, of other sentient feeling organisms, and that this idiotic, whatever, rightist, neo-connie, capitalist, greedy fucker attitude is really immature. It's not smart. It's what a dumb person does. Me first.
You know, he hasn't really thought about those things quite a bit. And I respect that. That's impressive. Someone who actually thinks about the world, you know. He doesn't just...
Yes, well, obviously I thought about it, and I did something else. I thought about how do you argue it, and can you win with your argument? Does your argument, is it true to the evidence? Are you making shit up to make your argument? Are you cheating the argument? Are you playing little lawyer tricks, or are you really defending the truth?
Just take whatever he's given at face value and just brush off and just do stuff like most people. Yeah, he questioned a lot of things and rejected a lot of things, but he retained some things that I rejected at an early age. In particular, altruism.
Again, only because we're intelligent. We're smart enough to know. We're smart enough to look in the mirror and see selfish, conniving son of a bitch. And we can figure out that, gee, I'd like something better written on my tombstone than dumb animal. Because that's what we're made to be as animals. That's what we are without intelligence. If I don't let you go to kindergarten, I don't let you go to grammar school, and I don't let you go to high school, and I don't let you go to college, I don't let you become educated in any way whatsoever, what are you going to be? You're going to be an asshole. I mean, fuck. And you're saying, well, that's my native state. No, it really isn't, in the sense that you have the tools not to be. Use them.
Or more generally, morality.
And more generally, again, if you really watched my videos, you'd know I have absolute contempt for the word morality used by anyone who's not a religious kook, because it doesn't mean anything. All there are value equations. That's all. Value is a thing. I've defined in just overt statement that the only part of our existence that has value are the feeling bits. And that's all that matters about what's happening on this planet, is how does this shit feel? Does it feel good or does it feel shitty? And that's all that matters. In the end, that's the only part that you write in the book of it meant something, were the feelings.
Hedonism. Although I know Inmendham doesn't like the word hedonism.
Yeah, I got no use for morality, and I certainly, why would I have any use for a stupid word that just basically says dumb animal? You're just basically, if you're a hedonist, you're basically saying I'm too stupid to figure out I'm not playing with only my chess pieces. I'm playing with other people's welfare. Their dick is in my frying pan. You know, I can't be a hedonist and be logical or rational, because the only way you can do that is to pretend the other humans aren't human and pretend the other animals aren't doing exactly what they look like they're doing, which is having physical conscious experiences. They're feeling good or they're feeling bad.
As a description of his value system. But it is an accurate term because it just means that he situates value in the subjective experiences of...
Again, it have nothing to do with subjective or objective. They're facts. I mean, there's no, you can't discount them by calling them subjective experience of being burned alive. Well, of course it's a subjective experience, but it doesn't change it any. It doesn't change the fact that it's an experience that took place. So, I mean, all the people that had surgery without morphine, they were all subjective experiences. That doesn't mean they didn't happen. It doesn't mean that they weren't horrible. It's just a bullshit terminology. This is just such philosophical manipulation. This is just so college. This is just so institutional bullshit. To try to sit there and use fucking, I won't even say fancy vocabulary, but that's it sort of is, and try to disguise what you're saying, and what you're saying is ludicrous. It's clearly, you can't make something subjective, which is obviously a pejorative term in philosophical speak, when it's objectively a fact that it takes place. The sensations are real. They aren't just subjective.
Pain and pleasure. For Inmendham, those are the things that matter. It's the feelings of pain and pleasure that sentient beings experience.
Right, and logically, what else could possibly be of value? Everything that we value because it has the effect of making people happy or sad. That's the only way it has value. Is that somebody has to be getting off on it. And if nobody's getting off on it, then it wouldn't have any value and nobody would pay money for it. Nothing would, it would just be totally ignored, like mud. There's mud in the backyard here. Nobody wants it. Nobody will pay. I can't go on the street and sell buckets of mud because nobody wants it, because nobody can get off on it. Nobody can feel good sitting there looking at the bucket of mud. So duh, yeah, the only way something becomes valuable is that it has to make people feel good.
That are the ultimate source of all value. Nothing else matters. It's just what you feel.
No, it's the element, it's the kernel, it's what all the other value is made out of. Just like you're made out of electrons and protons, okay, essentially. That's the elemental bits, and the force bits, but that's what makes you up, that element. All right, there's nothing else. That's all there is. That's the structure. That's the thing that makes the thing work.
And when I was very young, I rejected hedonism. I rejected altruism, or again, morality, more generally. And I reject...
Yeah, which is just idiotic nihilism, which is just saying, I decided to be a selfish cunt. I decided to become a dumb animal. So in spite of my education, I decided to just turn the logic engine off and pretend it made sense somehow for me to turn everybody else into nothing and turn myself into something very important. That's the definition of a stupid cunt.
Hedonism. And I rejected those things because of biological and psychological theorizing.
You don't theorize psychologically, so again, just more nonsense. You had impulses, and you decided to go with your impulses rather than any rhetoric that implied that maybe you can't have what you want. So, just like if you had a bad impulse, like you felt like you wanted to do violence to a woman, or you wanted to rape one, or you wanted to molest a kid, or something, you had some sort of physiological reaction that was totally inappropriate and you knew it. You just didn't want to hear that, oh, I mean, I'm not allowed to murder women for my pleasure. Damn. And that's all you did. So you did nothing more than what the basic psycho killer does. You found some lame excuse to say it's okay to be an asshole. And it's not.
And also because of philosophical skepticism and inquiry.
Yeah, just bullshit. This is just bullshit. You didn't inquire, you ran away. There's no way you're inquiring what's the truth, and the truth is selfishness works. No, that is just fucking idiotic bullshit. There's no way logic takes you that direction.
Philosophical inquiry. I saw that those were assumptions. They were not necessary assumptions.
There's no assumption here besides, again, pointing to the obvious facts that brain has sensations. My personal brain happens to be connected to my personal body, and I personally feel my broken leg. I don't personally feel somebody else's broken leg. But I mean, obviously, rationally, I know, oh yeah, their brain is doing the feeling though. So it is a broken leg. It's not a broken leg when it happens to somebody else. It's just as bad as if it happened to me. And that logic is inescapable by anybody who has any honesty at all. If you have any intellectual integrity at all, you're stuck with that fact sitting right there in front of you.
I could exist without them. I would not disappear in a puff of smoke if I didn't believe in them. And so I decided not to believe in them.
Yes, because you decide to turn it all into some kind of dogma. Oh, they just invented morality. It doesn't have anything to do with logic. Well, yeah, it does. Something like the Golden Rule, for example, has just pure logic, right? Do unto others as you expect others to do unto you. Gee, wow, I'm an Einstein. I figured out that if I punch somebody in the face that I should maybe expect to get punched back. Woo, wow, I have to be a huge intellectual to figure this out. I mean, no. It's just so fucking simple. And yet you assholes have tried to make it complicated. And it's not complicated at all.
Because, well, I also saw that they had some implications that didn't make a lot of sense. And they conflicted with my understanding of life, I guess.
Yeah, you didn't have an understanding of life, right? Because all you were really just saying is, me, Feely, okay, I have to endure it. I have to pay the price, and I get the profit. And you just decided to say, it doesn't matter if I steal it from somebody else. It doesn't matter that if my satisfaction is made out of somebody else's misery. And it's just a plainly retarded logic. It's just the slave owner's logic.
Life is selfish, so life is not altruistic.
So it's more horseshit, right? We're not just life. We're supposed to be intelligent life. We can be intelligent life. You're, pompously prancing around using words blithering genius, implying that you know something about genius or intelligence or how to add 2 + 2 and divide by 7, and you can maybe do something even more complicated and do, some sort of quadratic equation or something. You're implying that you're doing something intelligent, and yet you're sitting there saying, oh no, my basic philosophy is you don't even pay attention to 2 + 2. You don't want to touch the math because you know where the math leads. So you're running away from it. You're running away from intelligence. So to say life necessitates us being assholes or stupid is just idiotic. That's why we got the big brain for no purpose, because it doesn't make us more aware, more capable of having more complex strategies to evade predators and to gain our food and to do things in a more sensible way and to build toilets and not to, shit in our drinking water and all this kind of stuff. We can't figure anything out. And you're just insulting the whole history of human beings spending thousands of years to figure out how the world works, and you're saying, no, let's fuck all that, fuck learning anything, let's just go back to being animals. Except I want to keep all my modern tools. I want to be able to manipulate people with words and vocabulary. I want to keep all these weapons, but I want to pretend they came from God, that they didn't have to be hard earned, and they didn't come with an equal amount of knowledge about social value and use and how to use. No, all of that information came with the tools, and you just don't want the instructions, the warning label, the liability label. You don't want to read the liability label on your recreational device. You want to take no responsibility. You want to play with uranium in the suburbs and just say, fuck you, neighbors, I don't care if I irradiate you.
Is hedonistic, or at least sentient life is hedonistic, but that doesn't mean that
again, so it's a stupid conversation to have. We're not parameciums. Yes, parameciums can't do anything but react to basic mechanisms, and they certainly don't feel anything. And so you go higher organism, you get to whatever it is, fruit flies or some sort of minimum number of neurons before you start having sense organs, where I think the ouch thing happens. But they can't think about the context of the ouch. They can't know that the other fruit flies are feeling organisms. They can't do any of that context. And of course we can with a minimum use of our intelligence. I mean, you don't need anything more than, 65 IQ points to get the logic that, other people feel. I'm sure you only need 65. And you're talking about you're some sort of genius. And what are you doing? You're pretending you can have the philosophy of somebody with 45 IQ.
Pursuit of pleasure is a rational goal. And I decided it wasn't, because or the avoidance of pain. Either of those things was a rational goal. So I rejected hedonism.
Right. So obviously that's just horseshit, right? Nobody rejects the idea that I'm going to avoid getting run over by steamrollers. I'm going to protect myself from pain. Nobody. So more horseshit. I rejected the notion that I got to look out for my comfort. Bullshit. Nobody can do that. Nobody.
Partly on the grounds that it was an assumption, an unjustified assumption, and partly on the grounds that, based on my psychological theorizing and my philosophical analysis.
So again, all there are facts. Okay, there's information, and it can be gleaned into hard evidence, weak evidence, all that kind of stuff. And all you can do is present the evidence at a trial. And even when you're doing the trial in your own little fucking brain, it's always going to be evidence-based. And the game is, do I pay attention to the evidence, or do I find rationalizations and excuses that are in my self-interest to annihilate evidence, to make it go away? All you did was try to make facts go away.
I came to believe that there was no winning at that game. Not just no winning, but no way to get ahead at all.
There's clearly ways not to get behind. And so again, this idea that, you concede that your desire is never going to be satiated. You're always going to be stuck with the fact that, if I complete every project tomorrow, the day after, I'm going to see some new projects. I get the Lamborghini. I mean, I've used this example, so I'll use it again. I mean, if I get a brand new Lamborghini, and I'm all happy for a day, you know, in 3 days there's going to be bird shit on it or some other kind that's going to make a spot, and the spot's going to bug the fuck out of me. It's always, you know, our nature is to see the broken and to fix it. That's how the machine works. That's how it conquers the world, is to pay attention to all these details. That's exactly why we have these sense organs, is to see the things that are wrong and fix them.
It was intrinsically zero-sum. And I guess also that it's not...
Yes, and then the zero sum isn't something we're imposing. It's what our nature provides us. Just a constant dissatisfaction. Because that motivates and that makes you conquer the world.
The point of action. It's the motivator of action.
Right. So once you know that, so what? How does that knowledge... I'm not saying it's good to know, and it's good to know that it has no credibility. That the fact that you want to win a gold medal, why do I want to win a gold? Oh, because the chicks. You know, because of some, or I can, you know, get a commercial deal and make $1 million or whatever. I mean, it's always, you know, the scheme. The scheme.
Right? Desire is there to drive us. But it's not the destination. It's the motivator. It's the thing that...
Well, again, and the word destination really doesn't mean much, right? Because the destination is really just, from nature's perspective, what worked, okay, because we were stupid. All it had to do was give us the impulse. We didn't know we're making babies. Again, all of this crap that somehow males have some interest in any of this family unit crap, which is just a bunch of shit. They have an interest in, you know, polishing their torpedoes.
It pushes us to do one thing versus another. We don't act. Well, in a sense we act to avoid pain and get pleasure. But in another sense we don't.
So, I know, there's only one sense that we act, in the sense that the impulses provoke us. And all there is this thing that tells us, no, you can't really do that. So like drinking and driving, again, it's just once you have knowledge of the wrongness, you just don't do it because it just pops up in your brain. I'm not allowed to do that. And there's no way to escape it. Even when you're drunk, you can't escape it once you know it's the truth. You're stuck with it. You can't, even when you're drunk, you know 2 + 2 = 4. Once you know a fact, you know it, and you're stuck with it.
In another sense, we act to reproduce. And those feelings... And
so again, we don't act to reproduce. Obviously, nature just gave us, you know, tricking us. Because we were stupid. It's tricking all the animals, right? I mean, I shouldn't even have to even say these things, but clearly none of the animals humping, you know, doing their thing, are thinking, I'm making babies, I'm making babies. That's not what they're thinking. You know, come on.
Mechanism of desire is just a driving force. You know, it's like a steering wheel plus a propulsion in a sense. It drives the brain forward, and it also defines forward.
so again, no point in saying it drives the brain and all this stuff, because the brain is actually the inhibitor. So the more brain you have, the more you're inhibiting, the more you're controlling these impulses. So I can just make the clear, as I have before, okay, I'm telling the same story again, but clearly the purpose of this function of inhibition is because there's a delicate line between I'm hungry and I need to eat, and there's, you know, mountain lions, and there's lions, and there's some kind of animal that can eat me. And so I have to balance these two interests. Can I get my food without getting killed? And that's the inhibition. So, you know, it's just balancing these two survival necessities. The fear of your destruction or harm, and the necessity to maintain your existence.
And backward. So it defines where we're supposed to go, and it pushes us in that direction. But it's an internal mechanism. We are beings that live in an external reality, and we move around in it.
Well, again, it's just kind of silly to talk about internal mechanisms when every internal mechanism is essentially modified by the external world, and we are conditioned organisms. So clearly, depending on how I raise you, I can raise you to eat almost any kind of crappy food, and I can raise you to fuck almost any kind of crappy any beast. I can pervert you, bend you, twist you into all kinds of manifestations of behavior by merely exposing you to an environment that taints you, that changes you, that molds you.
And our raison d'etre is to act into that external reality, to reproduce.
So again, that's for a total imbecile, somebody who doesn't understand anything about being a human, being alive, being controlled by a biological mechanism. Of course, we're smart enough to know all that stuff now. We can know the difference between having sex and making babies. We can do all of that crap. And see, these people, these nihilist idiots, want to pretend we can't do any of that shit, that we somehow don't understand any of this, that we never learned 2 + 2 = 4. You know, so we're stuck with our biology saying it equals 3. When now we know better.
Okay, now I don't want to go through my whole worldview in this. I really want to talk about effluism. I will eventually reveal my worldview in its entirety.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, again, what's a worldview going to be made out of by just accepting, 10 facts that you have to accept? And 8 of the 10 just have to do with how evolution functions, and the other 2 just have to do with the knowledge we've acquired that make it kind of obvious, that we're just dumb animals, unless we use this logic mechanism to acquire facts and have the facts mean something, because the facts actually add up to something and they point in a direction. That's what facts do. Facts reveal new facts. You combine 2 facts, you end up with 3 facts. And you combine them with another fact, and you end up with 7 facts. And then you end up with 14 facts. And facts create facts.
But I didn't want to do it all in one midnight walk. So I'll stick to effluism, which is what I wanted to talk about. And I'm going to talk about effluism as inmendham presents it. I haven't read
Well, unfortunately, the other people don't really present it. Now, Benatard conceded that the argument for antinatalism, that is the argument against human reproduction, would likely and probably extend to animals too, that they're not substantially doing anything different than us, except we dance with taps on our shoes, they don't have shoes. Yeah, so yeah, they're not as fancy, okay, at living as we are. But it's just a difference that doesn't have anything to do with anything important. That's just facade. That's just the difference between having a gold crown and a gold-plated crown. It just doesn't mean much.
Professional philosophers who write on that topic. I guess, what is it, Chioran? I don't know how to pronounce it. That guy, and...
Yeah, Koran, I guess I don't know. Yeah, there's lots of ways to say it, I suppose. But a guy, again, who's arguing that somehow the real problem with human beings is their civilization, that somehow the core of it is not as tainted as what we've manifested it into. So he's sort of a guy that you'd almost argue is still holding something, that if you just twist our civilization a little or tweak it, that somehow being alive makes sense. When no. It doesn't matter what dress it's wearing, it's still silly.
Benatar, I guess. So I don't know what those guys have to say, but I'm pretty familiar with Mendham, so I'll use him as the proponent, or the antagonist in the discussion, I guess. He certainly is very antagonistic in his style.
Well, and I did read Benatar. I mean, I can't say I've read a ton of Quran, except excerpts, and again, it's just, like I said, it's really just a social commentary. It doesn't really get to the core problem, which is the problem of the nature of being in a gladiator war, and that's what life is. Life is child molestation and murder on a insane scale, and it really can't honestly be described as anything else. It's Freddy's nightmare dressed up as some sort of accomplishment, and all it is harm and death.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just pointing it out. Yeah, I'll present Hefilism from what I think his perspective is, but I think it's probably the same for most Hefilists. Hefilism is a rejection of life.
Whatever. It's a rejection of being duped by some bullshit DNA molecule that's saying, I'm going to dispose of you because you're not better than something else, or whatever, this silly competition, that I should be in some silly competition with my own brother to gain what? To gain the opportunity to have my chromosomes as the foundation for the creation of new organisms that'll do the same thing, compete and kill each other for no good purpose.
Right. It's a rejection of life.
It's a rejection of being a dupe. It's a rejection of being a member of a retarded Borg that doesn't make anything pretty or do anything wonderful. It just makes a mess. A septic, dirty, stinking, pustulous mess.
It's a moral rejection of life.
No, it's a ethical rejection of wasting torture to do nothing of value. It's a rejection of some notion that I should walk around spilling milk and only cleaning up half of it. It's a rejection of stupidity.
Oh, here's a little deer. Oh, let's see them here. Oh, hello there. Yeah, this neighborhood is full of deer, and they're totally unafraid of people. This one's just standing here about 10 feet away from me. Anyway, let's see more.
Right, and it's carrying on average 150 ticks. Lyme ticks. Yeah. Infectious diseases. What a great thing.
They go on, I'm sure. Alright, yeah, so Hefilism is a rejection of life. And it is both a moral rejection.
So again, more nonsense. So he knows enough about me to have seen enough videos to argue my philosophy. And again, yet he doesn't know that I despise the word morality. It's just a silly word to use because it is so associated with merely dogmatic declarations of value that has nothing to do with having a logical argument about what has value. I don't have a morality. I don't have a moral code. I don't have moral themes. All I have is knowledge of 2 plus 2, of the simple value equation, which is I feel feelings, I know their importance, I know how important it is that I not be tortured. It's clear to me, and I understand that that truth holds for all the other sentient beings, and that I can't gain my gratification torturing them because I wouldn't accept that deal. I wouldn't accept being tortured for some trivial pleasure. I wouldn't do it. So why would I impose it?
In the sense that it views life as morally bad.
No, it views life as insufficient. Okay? It doesn't meet the standard it needs to be. It's not fuel efficient. It's a car that gets no miles to the gallon. It's way underperforming. It's consuming much more value in terms of the negative sensations produced than the value of the positive sensations. And the positive sensations themselves don't even have any value because they're just escaping from negative conditions. They're just getting out of quicksand. Saving one man from drowning in quicksand does not save the other guy in the quicksand. I can't use saving one guy to justify the other guy drowning. It's just stupid.
Morally repugnant or something like that. And it also is a rejection of life as having negative value for the liver.
So again, that's a lie, because I've never talked about the liver. Okay, I've never said overtly, anyway, as far as I know, that no individual can possibly escape feeling enough negative to make their life a burden. Clearly, maybe some have. Maybe some people have gone through life and they've never been sick, and they die of a heart attack instantly, and some other kind, unconscious or immediately, and blah, blah, blah. Maybe they escape fairly unscathed. Maybe that's possible. The argument I'm making, though, is that, yes, fundamentally, the whole engine is driven by spilling the milk first and then cleaning up some percentage of it. So I believe it's a zero sum. So you should just stick with that notion. Okay? Not for some moral reason do I believe it's zero sum. Not because some God says so, it's zero sum. I'm saying logically we can sort of understand that everything I enjoy it because it escapes me from negative liability. Winning the lottery is fun because it gives you immunity to all the negative things that burden you. There's no real positive to it. It's just your ticket to escape poverty and bill collectors and credit card interest and all the other crap, and a leaky roof and a this and a that, and having an insufficient fuckable.
Not for the liver as your organ, but for the being, the sentient being that lives. The life is a curse, not a blessing. Okay.
So again, rhetoric I wouldn't use, words I wouldn't play with. I don't think I've ever said life is a curse, But yeah, clearly I'm arguing that the nature of it is, it's a negative value engine. The real nature is you're born in the quicksand, and you feel the relief of getting yourself out of the trouble, and that's what drives us, is the better feeling of getting out of the trouble, getting out of the worry, getting out of the anxiety, getting out of the physical burdens, the tension and the stress and the fatigue and all those negative feelings.
And this rejection is based on biological realism.
So again, these are just terminology, that's just used by people to turn something simple into something complicated. Biological realism. Oh, you mean accepting the real consequences of an examination of evolution. What does it do, and what is the practical effect? It obliges organisms to kill each other, and ultimately, through their own ignorance, kill themselves.
Combined with a value system that has hedonism as the primary or sole.
So again, not hedonism. So, instead of using some bullshit derogatory word, you could just say an appreciation for sentient experience. So, I don't think a rational person would say saying hedonism equals valuing sentient experience. That's not the definition of the word. So again, it's just a slander to me to say I'm a hedonist. I've never argued for any kind of hedonist philosophy. I never used the word in anything but a derogatory manner. So again, you think you're doing me some respect here, or respecting my position, by using rhetoric that I never use and throwing it on top of my philosophy? Fuck you, buddy. I don't consider that any kind of respect.
non-moral value and the base value, right? Because you can't have moral values until you have non-moral values. There has to be.
I'm just saying, why would I play with jargon like that? Moral values, non-moral values. This is just stupid. What's valued? I've already explained what's valued. It's so fucking simple. The gold medal doesn't mean anything. The happy person holding it means something. I mean, it's that simple. There's no value in the bullshit that we value. There's only value in how it affects us. What it makes us feel is where the value begins and ends. There can't be any harm or bad in the world if no human being or no sentient creature could experience the harm, to feel it. If nothing feels bad when something happens, it can't be bad.
Something that is good for the individual before there can be any moral goods or bads, Like because most morality is about not harming others. Well, there has to be some notion of harm that exists first, right? So, this philosophical rejection of life arises within a value system.
Again, there's no rejection of life. There's a commentary, a statement about how it's underperforming. So again, if I was to tell you that car isn't worth the price, that car doesn't get good enough gas mileage, you don't say I've rejected car, or I've rejected all cars, or any of that kind of crap. You just take what the argument is I'm going to make about the fact that it doesn't get enough miles per gallon. So I can't say that this is pigeonhole kind of language, but it's no better than that. Again, this is just coming from some asshole who thinks the world is made out of right and left. Just an idiot.
That is hedonistic and altruistic. That has hedonism as its base value.
And again, this altruism is just more horseshit language. It's the difference between knowing 2 + 2 = 4 and not knowing. So once you know something, you're forced to be altruistic in the sense it's in your own self-interest. You can't honestly be anything else. So you'd have to be dishonest to be something else. So you really don't have a choice in the matter. So you're not doing something altruistic in any real sense of the word. And I've said this in videos. It's always going to be your personal interest. You have to make, for a philosophy, for you to act on a philosophy, you have to know it well enough that you feel it. And if you don't feel it, you won't act on it. And it's just a fact. You have to have a personal investment in what you've decided 2 + 2 = 4. And if somebody writes 3, it's got to bother you. It's got to irritate you. It's got to scream to you, wrong, 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 wrong. The bells have to go off and it has to be irritating. And if it's not irritating, then it doesn't matter what 2 + 2 =.
Pain and pleasure are viewed as the ultimate sources of value, and the only sources of value, ultimately.
So again, hedonistic, again, just pretending that if I give feelings this negative connotation, that somehow I can pretend they don't exist. It's just horseshit rhetoric. Oh, fuck. I really hate when shit like that happens. It's already broken, and now it's more broken.
And then there is a moral value, which could be defined as either altruism, or possibly in a more negative sense as do no harm. So it could be nice.
First, do no harm, right?
Or it could just be don't make others feel bad.
Right. So this is an ethic that, everybody who has a little bit of intelligence knows that this is part of the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. So clearly something understood by intelligent people. That you rationally, this is a game that's dangerous. This isn't free lunch. We're not playing free lunch. We're obviously playing a game. Anybody who's a little bit intelligent knows that you can't have your $1 billion and not overcharge somebody or rip off an employee, use their intellectual capital and underpay them for it. There's no free profits. They have to come out of something's ass. And that's just the way it is. And that's why it's part of an intelligent oath, is because intelligent people recognize that this is a dangerous and tricky game. And being a doctor is a tricky game. It's dangerous. You got people's beating hearts sitting there right in front of you. And one false move, and you've, instead of giving them a positive result, you'll give them a negative result. So there's caution and respect for the dangers that is perfectly rational. And that's all that I'm advocating, is that, you know, you don't have to be a doctor to recognize that we're playing a game that has consequences. I drive my car in the street that has consequences. I can kill people with it. It's just a fact. The real risks exist. And we know that I have to be mindful of those. I have to pay attention. I can't be on my cell phone. I can't be doing all this other bullshit. I have to pay attention to what I'm doing, or I could do something catastrophic. Yeah, that's just simple, basic. Again, what do you need? A 70 IQ? A 75 IQ? To have some appreciation that I could hurt somebody? You know, and that my first obligation is make sure I don't. Make sure I don't dump gasoline on them and catch them on fire. I mean, this is just such bullshit.
These values are generally accepted by the culture of the modern West. They are what I would call humanist values.
Well, again, so that's more horseshit, right? That the culture has values. We clearly see what the culture values, in the sense that it's clearly valuing this greedy, selfish bullshit. All the commercials are shammy liars. You know, we have people, we make it legal for people to call other people and try to steal their money, take advantage of their Alzheimer's or something else. We're allowing the culture to look disgusting in terms of how it treats us. It treats us with no respect, as if we were dumbasses and fools and dupes. So again, this silly argument that somehow this is where intelligence leads you. You know, somehow intelligence is running the culture. What a pile of shit. No, your animals are running the culture, jackass. The dumb dupes are running the culture, asshole. The selfish cunts, the liars. Why is lying so everywhere? It's because the liars have made it legal to be liars, obviously.
Humanism is a worldview that is, well, I wouldn't say it's entirely just based on those values alone, but those are the values of humans.
So again, to say that humans are hedonistic and that hedonism is respecting the value of feelings is just a lie. I mean, it's just such a philosophical lie to sit there and pretend that my philosophy has anything to do with hedonism. Hedonism is about valuing your own feelings. It's not about valuing feelings as they happen in the world. So just a gross lie.
Humanism, and those are the values of ethylism. So ethylism...
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you lying sack of shit. They're not my values. They're not in any of my videos. If you go to Gray Chow Cho's ethylism video, you won't hear any of that shit. So it's just a fucking slander and a lie.
Arises out of humanist values. And the difference...
So again, more horse shit. I've never argued for anything called humanist. I've obviously just argued for logic, okay, and I've made the point over and over and again. The real problem with human beings is their selfishness, not any notion that they have an obligation to the other feeling organisms on the planet. It's just more complete horse shit. It's not even horse shit, it's much shittier shit. It's human shit. It's just a load of shit.
Between ethylism and humanism is that, well, I suppose there are two differences. Actually, I was going to just say one.
No, yeah, there's absolutely nothing in common. One glorifies humans and glorifies this idea that somehow you can, if we just pray enough, or we just wish on enough stars, or we just sit there and temper our consumption, that somehow everything will be okay, that we can fix the fundamental problem with some bullshit notion of it'll, oh, there's a silver lining. No, there's no silver lining. It's just failure redundantly relived.
One being biological realism, which is just understanding how life works and having...
Yes, that humans are just bugs. So again, nobody rational would ever call somebody who's calling human beings bugs a humanist. No rational dictionary would ever do that. There wouldn't be any dictionary that anybody had any respect for where it called humanist. Somebody who believes humans are bug-like fuckshits. No, I don't think so.
A realistic view of human nature instead of an idealistic view. But the other one is, I guess, the moral in-group for ethylism.
So again, more moral crap. This bullshit word. I never preach a morality. I just argue for a basic truth, which is I've personally tasted feelings and I know they taste completely different. And one tastes really bad, one set of feelings, and the other tastes pretty good. And I know that the good ones only taste good because the bad ones taste bad, as a little added bit of information. So those three little facts give me a great deal of power to understand what has value in the world. Because I know the other humans, I'm not special. I'm not the only real human, and they're all just some kind of simulated humans. Because that would be a silly UFO theory.
Is all sentient beings, all beings that can feel pain and pleasure, are included in the moral in-group, and are given equal weight.
So again, there's no statement have I ever made where I give them all equal weight, or say I don't even bother attempting to weight all of this stuff. But clearly, okay, you could make some arguments about organisms that don't have enough brain, where there's not enough going on. But theoretically, I can't weight them, because the fact is, the dumb organisms might feel a lot more than we do. Their pain might be even, their headaches might be even louder, their suffering might be even louder, because they are more connected to it in terms of their behavior. So why wouldn't the sirens be even louder? Why wouldn't the motivations be even harsher and more intense? And that we have sacrificed those senses to do intelligence.
Or at least their feelings are given equal weight. And this is also true of veganism, right? The vegan philosophy, if it's based on, concern for animal welfare and not just on health or something like that. Oh, there's another deer freaking me out. Well, it's a big one. It's like right in front of me. Oh, there's two of them there. I didn't see the other one. Walked right by it.
Yeah, and they make you hungry, does it? Did you get hungry thinking about, oh man, I'll wrestle that thing to the ground, and open up its blood vessels and leak it out, and then I'll chomp on it until I make a hole, and then I'll chew on its guts, maybe eat its liver or its pancreas or something, because that's like the really especially good parts. Is that what you sense? Is that what you feel? You're just seeing like a bag of potato chips when you see the deer? Oh yeah, it's just like potato chips. No, I don't think so. Fucking idiot.
Yeah, they're so quiet, you can't see them, and then suddenly they're there. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so,
lying, misparaphrasing, getting it all wrong, that's where you were. Proving that genius isn't really where you are.
Yeah, I was talking about veganism. Veganism that's based on a concern for animal welfare is kind of in between humanism and ethylism.
No, it's just a rational response to the logic of understanding, oh, why do I want to make something else feel bad? Wouldn't that be greedy and selfish of me to just decide to consume them? Like if aliens came here and ate us, you would think that would be genius? Oh, that takes a real smart thing to figure out Oh, I can't make my food out of something that doesn't feel pain. That's too complicated. That's too big a challenge. Oh, bullshit.
No. The humanists and the vegan deny the, I suppose you could say, the horrors of life. The
amazingly stupid remark. I mean, how is he going to reclamate that? So the vegan is denying the horrors of life by recognizing that causing horror makes you suck. Yeah. Uh-huh. Sure. You're an honest cop. You're honestly playing with words here. No, you're dishonest as fuck.
the horrible reality of life. That life is a struggle.
It is what we make it. That's the whole point of having intelligence. So again, this is just saying, I'm too stupid. I'm too stupid to know what 2 plus 2 equals, and 4 plus 4, and 6 plus 6. I'm too stupid. I mean, again, so if let's say we were born Tyrannosauruses, you know, we had the big teeth, we were real predators, right? We're really hungry for the blood. I mean, yum, 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 yum. I can't wait to get to the entrails and, you know, chew on some of those intestines and shit. I love intestines. Nice raw intestines full of poo and shit. Yum, 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 yum. Even if I was a Tyrannosaurus, it's still 2 plus 2. It's still figuring out, hey, wait a minute. I'm totally fucking somebody over for a meal. Just one meal, and I'm causing torture. Holy shit, does this ever suck? How the fuck am I going to be this kind of a menace? It's like being, whatever, Smallpox Mary, whatever the fuck her name was. How can you justify it? If you're giving the information, somebody points it out to you. You've killed this many people, and you've made them horribly sick, and they died over a 2-month period, and it was just awful. What are you going to do with that? You fucking cunt. Oh, it's okay. Nature says I can do it. Nature says it's okay. I mean, fuck you.
It's a zero-sum.
I'm worth it. Yeah, you'd say that. You'd sit there on a pile of your dead bodies, and you'd sit there and say, I'm worth it. You'd do that. You're that big of a cunt. Fuck you.
Game. Or as I say usually, it's a zero-sum game at the margins.
It's a zero-sum game from every perspective rationally possible. Only an irrational perspective can make it into any other kind of game. It's clearly, like I said, winning only looks good because losing sucks. Being out of prison is really cool because being in prison sucks. I mean, just too stupid. All right. Well, we're halfway through it. And maybe we'll bother listening to the rest, but maybe we won't because he's just too fucking stupid. Nihilist, irrational. I mean, again, the very fact that he would sit there and put those disgusting words in my mouth, morality, hedonism, humanism, when I have rejected those labels entirely and completely and quite decisively. No one, okay, who has paid any attention, okay, would think he could get away with that crap. That somehow he could put those words in my fucking mouth. Fuck you, liar. So, alright, anyway. So, till the next installment of people suck. They suck at logic. They suck at honesty. They just suck.